Welcome to the Scottish Rite Journal podcast, an audio presentation of the Scottish Rite Journal, brought to you by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. This week's article is Brother Andrew Johnson, a Masonic President with a Rough and Rugged Road to Travel, by John Walter Sain, 32nd degree, and comes from the September-October 2019 issue of the Scottish Rite Journal. Brother Andrew Johnson, President of the United States, traveled a rough and rugged road. He enjoyed considerable political success throughout his career, but there were challenging roads and incautious political decisions that would lead eventually to his impeachment. Born on December 29, 1808, in Raleigh, North Carolina, young Andrew did not have an easy start in life. Losing his father at age 3 and coming of modest means, he became an apprentice at J. Selby's tailor shop at the tender age of 9 on November 8, 1818. On May 17, 1827, Andrew Johnson married Eliza McCardle, a shoemaker's daughter. Shortly after Johnson's arrival in Greenville, Eliza is reported to have told her girlfriends, "There goes the man I will marry." Although they had 5 children, little can be said about the relationship between Andrew and Eliza. Yet one thing is clear. Despite her serious health problems and his political tribulations, Eliza stood by her husband, even in the most trying times. Johnson's political career began in 1829, when he was elected to the position of alderman. On January 4, 1834, Andrew Johnson was elected mayor. Afterwards, he was elected to both houses of the state legislature and eventually, in 1843, to the U.S. House of Representatives, where he served 5 two-year terms. During this time, Johnson also began his Masonic career, being received on May 5, 1851, into Greenville Lodge No. 119, now Greenville No. 3. 2 years later, on October 17, 1853, Andrew Johnson was sworn in as governor of Tennessee. At that point, he gave a spirited inaugural address which presented democracy as a ladder, influenced by Jacob's ladder, Genesis chapter 28, verse 12, which the biblical patriarch saw in a vision reaching from earth to heaven. We can only speculate on why he was so influenced by Jacob's ladder with its angel of God ascending. But we do know this speech marked the ascending nature of Johnson's political career. Indeed, Johnson used his time as governor to develop his ideas, which would thrust him into a national career. Johnson's time in the U.S. Senate, 1857 to 1862, was a challenging and dangerous period. After the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter, various southern states began to secede, including Johnson's home state of Tennessee. Yet Johnson remained an unconditional Unionist and a strong Democrat. Even Greenville secession meetings were cursing the town's most prominent member, Andrew Johnson. On March 4, 1861, Abraham Lincoln took the oath of office, and Andrew Johnson was appointed military governor of Tennessee. Personal conflicts plagued Johnson during this time. Eliza was very ill due to consumption, tuberculosis, and on April 4, 1863, his eldest son Charles fell from a horse and was killed. Charles, incidentally, had served as worshipful master of Greenville Lodge No. 119 from 1857 to 1859. In the fall and winter of 1863 through 1864, the presidential race was in full heat in the midst of the Civil War. President Lincoln and Vice President Hannibal Hamlin had done well in Lincoln's first presidential election, but Lincoln needed the electoral attraction from a pro-war Democrat and found him in Andrew Johnson. Lincoln and Johnson were elected as president and vice president, a sort of national unity ticket of a candidate from North and South. Good Friday 1865 changed Vice President Johnson's life drastically. At approximately 10:15 that night, Johnson was awakened as former governor of Wisconsin, Leonard J. Farwell, brought him the grave news that the president had been shot at Ford's Theater. Lincoln died on April 15th at 7:22 a.m., and Chief Justice Salmon P. Chase administered the oath of office to Johnson later that morning. With the Civil War over and Lincoln gone, the task of Reconstruction fell to Andrew Johnson. Johnson's plan was to be lenient to the defeated Southern states and to provide amnesty to the Confederate soldiers who pledged loyalty to the United States. President Johnson pardoned General Albert Pike of the Confederate Army, who would later serve as Sovereign Grand Commander of the Scottish Rite Southern Jurisdiction, an organization which Johnson would join. Transactions from the Supreme Council reported by illustrious B.B. French, 33rd degree, SGIG in the District of Columbia read, on the 16th of June, 1867, assisted by illustrious brother A.T.C. Pearson, 33rd degree, I conferred on brother Andrew Johnson, President of the United States, all the degrees of the ancient and accepted rite, including the 32nd degree, as an honorarium, which he expressed to us his great gratification, and said that the doctrines inculcated were such as he had been preaching and practicing all his life. While such details are available about President Johnson's Scottish Rite membership, less is known about his membership in the York Rite. Johnson was known to have been a Knight Templar, but when and where he received the degrees is not known. Some have reported that he was a member of Nashville Commandery No. 1, where a portrait of him in full Knights Templar regalia hangs. However, there is some speculation that he was confused with Andrew Johnston, who was knighted in that commandery on July 26, 1859, the same date as claimed for President Andrew Johnson. In any case, problems for President Johnson escalated when he failed to obey the Tenure of Office Act, which stated that a president could not remove any appointed officials without the consent of Congress. Johnson believed that the Tenure of Office Act was unconstitutional and dismissed Secretary of War Edwin Stanton from his duties. Stanton was a supporter of the Radical Republicans in Congress, and Johnson felt that his removal would boost morale among his cabinet members. On February 24, 1868, President Andrew Johnson was impeached by the House of Representatives. The trial by the Senate began in March and ended in May. In order to convict the president, a two-thirds majority would be needed. Johnson was one vote shy of being removed from office. Johnson finished out his term in office, but would not go on to seek re-election. Ulysses S. Grant would become the 18th President of the United States. Johnson returned to his home in Greenville to receive the vindication he so desired. In 1875, he was re-elected senator, the only former president to serve in the United States Senate. He was ultimately vindicated in 1926, when the Supreme Court declared the Tenure of Office Act, which Johnson had opposed, as invalid. Johnson boarded a train on July 28, 1875, to visit his daughter Mary. Eliza had accompanied him in hopes of improving her health. Shortly after dinner, Johnson retired to his room, looked out of the window, and suddenly collapsed. The left side of his face was paralyzed, and his speech was slurred. On July 30th, Johnson suffered a second stroke, and at 2:30 in the morning, Andrew Johnson went to the Celestial Lodge above. When Johnson's body arrived in Greenville, members of Greenville Lodge escorted their beloved brother to the Johnson homestead. On Tuesday, August 3rd, members of the Commandery of Knights Templar and Greenville Lodge conducted a Masonic funeral ceremony. Then the 17th president was laid to rest, wrapped in an American flag and with the Constitution beneath his head. Andrew Johnson's tumultuous times and his being the first trifecta president in the Blue Lodge, Scottish Rite, and York Rite make him a unique figure in the pantheon of Masonic presidents. Any accompanying photographs or citations for this article can be found in the corresponding print edition. The Scottish Rite Journal is published by the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite, Southern Jurisdiction, Mother Supreme Council of the World. Mark Dreisenstock, 32nd degree, KCCH, Managing Editor. I'm your host, Matt Bowers.